this week, we are definitely talking about learning by heart. And I thought that was really interesting when I ran across that phrase. Like I have said before, every week I am praying about what we're going to talk about. I'm studying and looking for information. I'm hoping that I'm going to find something and then be able to contact all of you and say, hey, this is what we're going to be talking about this Friday so that you can prepare. Perhaps we'll get to that. But for these first few months anyway, it's been probably more of a learning process for me. But as I am praying about it and looking for things, it'll come to me. And this week, it was just yesterday, finally, and it was learning by heart. And the things that I was looking up about it, we're talking about the difference between learning by heart and learning by rote memorization and how those are different. And I think that that phrase has been used interchangeably. And apparently that's wrong because it's not the same thing, it's different. Any thoughts about that? How would you think that learning by heart is different from learning by rote memorization?
I was reading, I just ordered all of those Catch the Vision manuals.
Yes.
So I was starting to read, and one thing I picked up on, there's a big difference between learning and education. Because where she had said, and I listened to her very first podcast, I'm really just starting this whole, education of the heart thing. And it's been eye-opening because she's like, well, how many kids go through all of this schooling? And how she talked about being in the escape room. I don't know if you remember that podcast, her very first one. And she's like, well, how boring would it be if you just kept going? And they said, oh, well, here's the step. You just unlock the third drawer and do the task. And woo, that's all you get. And she said, well, how many of the kids are going to school and just learning to pass a test? And how many of them actually enjoy learning afterwards? Because all they're being is educated. They're not being taught to learn.
Right.
And so that's been a big thing for us is I'm trying to weed out curriculum and just follow my kids and see where they're going and see what they're learning. And so tomorrow we're going to a chocolate factory to see how it goes from the cocoa bean to chocolate. And that's something that they wanted to do. And so that's been fun. It's just been following to see where their little minds are going.
I love that. And that's significant. And you have a very different experience when you do that versus learning that you are directing, that education that you're directing and leading them. And it's like that, you tell the kids to go out and play outside. But if you tell them, okay, now here is this bucket and here's some sand and you need to fill the bucket 5 times and make these, turn it upside down and make these little castles and then make a little road that goes from this side over to this side, that's kind of what we do when we have this too much of the idea of a curriculum versus letting them go and explore on their own and learn what they'll learn and follow our lead, in learning. Lindsay, hold on. That's this way on my screen. Lindsay Bunting has been doing Well-Educated Heart for a long time now, Lindsay. You've been involved in this with your kids, and TJ Ed also is a big part of Lindsay's educational philosophy. But I think you do a very good job of not getting in the way of your kids' learning and not forcing any learning on them. Do you have any comments about this idea of learning by heart or letting them direct?
Yeah, I think when you learn by heart, it's because it's something you care about. Like Lindsay was saying, they want to learn about it. And so when they want to learn about it, then they care about it and then they're going to remember it. So it's in their heart. They've learned it by heart because they cared. Now, yeah, just memorizing something they didn't care about, it's not the same. I think this week I've been thinking a lot about what are things that are important to learn? I don't know. I have all these thoughts. I gotta organize them in my head before I start sharing things. But yeah, just letting our kids explore and finding things that they want to learn and then they care about it. I think that's what makes all the difference.
Yeah, I do too. It makes all the difference in the world. They become passionate about it and they'll spend a lot of time doing those things, pursuing those things. In fact, we have somebody coming on right now that Sherry Van Patten, and poor Sherry, she's been trying to join us for weeks. She's been really busy transitioning. She's moving or has moved, I'm not sure, but Sherry is really great about letting her kids pursue their passions. And I love that because I love to see her kids. I ran into them, gosh, now it's been probably a month and a half ago, but if you run into them, you can ask them what they've been doing, you know, and they'll be super excited about whatever new thing they've been into, or it might even be the same thing they were into the last time you talked, but they've been making things or creating things or having experiences, and Sherry completely supports that, and I love that. So welcome, Sherry. It's nice to see your face.
Welcome. Thank you. I'm glad to be able to come and make it today. So you can see I'm in the car.
Yes, yes. So I'll be careful about, I won't call you out because you won't be able to talk while you're driving. But Sherry's an amazing science teacher. And she's been homeschooling her kids now for, I don't even know how long. I don't remember, but it's been a long time.
What, 8 years?
Okay.
About 8 years.
And so they get involved in co-ops sometimes, not necessarily officially, but just as friends. And I think, did you start facilitating education for the charter? Something like that. I just said I wasn't going to call you out. Now I totally am. Sorry.
No, I ran like a science park day for a long time. We ran a seminar, just a whole bunch of friends through the church. We did a seminar a couple times a year or so. Just a lot of things. Now I do work for a charter, so that is one of my things I do. And on top of everything else that I do, so with my kids and their friends and stuff, it's kind of fun. We all kind of take turns, so it's fun.
I love that. I think that's wonderful. But Sherry was one of my first contacts that helped me to see that science could be really fun and exciting and that kids could love it. But it all had to do, then this was my learning. Okay. So this is what we're talking about still this week, is more our responsibility, our learning as moms, and how that's going to trickle down and affect our children. But my learning about science came from Sherry. That was my first real connection where I felt happy about that and positive about the like possibilities, you know, and it was because Sherry was excited about it. Sherry is passionate about science being fun and exciting and super interesting, and her enthusiasm for it is what I felt. And then it rubbed off on me. And then I thought, oh, okay, well, this could be fun. And it changed my attitude about it. So I need to thank you for that, Sherry. I don't know if I ever have, but that was a kind of a turning point for me. But it matters. Our attitudes toward the learning matter to how our children receive this opportunity. You know, I don't know how you are about this, but I look at my children, and over the years, I've just thought, oh my goodness, I would have loved to have had your life, you know, your experience, your opportunities. To have my mom was a big reader and she encouraged reading, but we had life, we had school and homework and everything. But here I'm telling my kids, just go read, just go play, just go do something you want to do. And I think, oh my goodness, that's heaven, to have all those years of childhood and to just be told, go play. You know, that's kind of magical. But that's such a great way for them to learn. And then for us as moms, last week I was kind of struck by this thought, and I mentioned it last week, but I don't know how much emphasis I put on it. But this idea that as a mom right now in your life, where you feel, especially as a homeschooling mom, where you've taken on this huge job of educating your children, right? Well, actually, to find out that the best way to do this is, you know, my opinion, but I'm shared with a lot of moms on here and some others out there in the world, but the best way to do this is for you to spend time learning and doing things that you love. That's what you could busy yourself with, is doing that while your kids play. and that's the best way to open up their heart to learning. That's the best model for them to watch. What a great life for you. I don't know how you moms that are on here today feel about it, and the moms that are going to be watching this days later when the recording's up and you can watch it on YouTube. A lot of our moms are doing that. But how do you feel about that? How do you feel about this opportunity? I know that in the beginning and for a long time, I was so torn between what I felt in my heart like I needed to do, which was my learning and my pursuing my passions and hobbies and things, and letting my children follow my lead, and doing public school, having something that looked like my idea of education. And it's hard to separate those. It's hard to get rid of the old model, to get that out of your head and get this new one in your head firmly, concretely, so that you trust in it, and that you're not worried all the time that, oh, what if I'm messing up my kids? What if I'm gonna ruin them? They're not gonna make it to college. They're not gonna be able to survive. They're gonna be somehow stunted or something. What do you think about that? How are you feeling? Are you starting to be able to wrap your head around this idea of mom first, kind of in this education model, or inspire, not require?
What are you gonna do?
Lindsay?
Yeah. So I feel like we've been really good at doing that, where I study and the kids play, and we did a lot of years. We've done a lot of years. Okay, my boys are gonna try to be silly, but and that's what feels good. No, in the kitchen. That's what feels good. That's what makes us happy. It's what makes me happy. So then, like, I'm happier and better with my kids, where I focus mostly on the things I want to do in my learning. But then I start thinking, and I know all of us do that, well, what am I missing? Like, am I focusing too much on myself, and I should be like intentionally teaching my children math or science, or like you start, like, those thoughts start coming back where you think, is this too easy? Like, am I making this
Right.
too easy for myself? And it should be harder, and I should be focused, doing more. And I don't know, then, yeah, but then that feels wrong. I start doing that, and that doesn't feel right, because they're not happy, and then I'm not happy. And then
With the structured learning, right? You mean?
Yeah, with the
Yeah.
structured learning. But when we just explore and play, and we have no set days that we do things on, and it's just love of learning whenever it comes, then it feels really good. And the atmosphere in our home is really good. So I don't know I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this idea that what happens is, I think, is we start following our hearts, and we let go, and we just are learning ourselves and having these positive experiences, and our children are kind of, it doesn't matter what they're doing. It doesn't matter if they're following us yet or not, but they're generally happier. And like you said, the whole mood of the home is happier. It's lighter. Things feel better. And we start kind of second guessing ourselves because we are enjoying learning. It's like, wait, we must be doing something wrong because this is fun. It's like, why do we separate the two? Why do we think that learning has to be a chore and that it's not enjoyable? Because it's so much fun. Learning is so much fun, very enjoyable. Kristen, are you in your closet?
Laundry room.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Like she's hidden away somewhere. Welcome. We're talking about why we have such a hard time with letting go and just using that learning model of mama learns, and the rest of the house just goes about their merry way, playing and enjoying each other and doing our family work responsibilities, but otherwise playing, reading, pursuing hobbies, whatever, and that is actually okay, that's actually a great way of pursuing things. Why we every once in a while stop and then throw in some more routines and schedules because we think we should, and then we remember again, oh yeah, that doesn't work. It's kind of a pattern that we moms we'll do occasionally, throughout our homeschool experience. But that's funny. I think it's a common thing to second guess ourselves. So we're kind of here today to give us some positive encouragement for pursuing our own learning and our hobbies, finding out what we like. I want to talk about that. We discussed that last week. Stephanie Green brought that up, saying, a lot of times we don't know what we like. We don't even know what our favorites are. I am still considering having you all turn in a spotlight form, and I'm going to do a spotlight every week. Okay, so whose favorite color is pink? Whatever. But have you thought about that a little bit? What is your favorite? What do you love to do? What makes your heart happy? What just fills you up? Because when you are full, your family feels that, and they're much happier. You're happier. The whole atmosphere of the home is more pleasant and calm. So have you thought about that? Have you had any experiences this week where you did something that filled your heart, filled you up? Did you feel like yourself? Even if you thought of something to add to your list of what's one of my favorites, what's something I like, something that when I do it, I always feel like me, I feel good.
Okay, so this is my second time here. But I was really, really inspired by that whole thought last week. I've always loved dancing. That's always been kind of my thing. And since since I left college and became a mom, I haven't really had as many opportunities to dance as I have otherwise been. So last week, that whole discussion made me really go, well, what do I love to do now? And I kind of talked to my husband about it a little bit, because he has lots of hobbies. He's Mr. Hobby Man. And anyway, so I picked up crocheting this week just to see how it felt, and I really enjoy it. And I also went back and started practicing piano a little bit, because I've regretted quitting lessons when I was 14. And it's actually been really fun to just kind of explore different things. And I don't know if I've found what my favorite is yet, but I felt a lot more liberated in telling myself that it's okay to spend that time figuring out what I love to do. And it was, I have fairly young kids, and it was really cool to see it when I sat down and actually started practicing the piano. My 4-year-old just gonna say hi. Hi. He really just wanted to be right there with me and practice piano, and he's been drawn to the piano more since I started practicing. Anyway, so I really love that idea.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Mary. I appreciate that, and I love it. And I was going to ask you as a follow-up question, how did your kids respond? And you just naturally shared that. I love that. And that's what Marlene says happens. And that's what I've seen in my life and in Lindsay Bunting's life, because I've been close to her and watched that. And in others, Kristen, I see that. And it's really fun to see that these truths that we kind of think, wait, what? I could do that? That they actually are a good thing, and they're positive, and they're actually a better thing that you could do for your children. It's hard because we walk that line of, well, we don't want to do anything that's selfish, and we don't want to, but it's not. It's filling your cup. It's doing these things that you love and bringing joy to your heart, and that trickles down to your family. And Mary, I say dance. It's going to look different and be different with little children all around you, but they're going to love that. What's one of the things your kids absolutely love to do? Most children love to dance. We have dance parties still in our kitchen on Friday nights. We're usually out on date night, but if we sneak home early, the speakers are going, and my kids are doing dishes and stuff, and they're just dancing and being goofy, and they're all in their almost all in their 20s. So anyway, the dance parties are awesome, and the kids absolutely love it if mom and dad get involved, but mom, that's huge if mom's involved. Okay, what else? Anybody else? Other ideas, other thoughts, things that you tried this week? Something you found that you love? I know that Kristen did something. Did you bring your pillows? You have your mute on. You have your mute on. Hold on. You should go get your, go ahead.
I said I didn't bring them. I could go down and get them though.
I think
They're in
you
my
should.
basement.
I think you should. I think you should show your pillows. But were you going to share something else?
No, I wasn't. So I'll
Okay,
just
go get a little workout. Go down and get your pillows and come back. So I told you last week that Kristen's family did a Route 66 little trip this last week or so ago. They were in Wisconsin visiting family, and then they went to Chicago, and they went that whole route. If you know the song, you know, they went from Chicago to LA, and they did it. And I thought that was really cool. And anyway, I'll let her tell you. You can tell the story while you're going down there. Sorry, Kristen.
Okay, so I was in a gift shop in Kingman, Arizona, which is in the song, and saw these really cute Route 66 pillows that I thought would be fun to put in our basement because we have kind of a 50s theme in our basement. And then I thought, but it was kind of expensive. And then I thought, oh, I bet I could find the fabric online. And then my husband said, there's probably a quilt store here. So anyway, we found a quilt store, went and bought the fabric. And then I actually came home and made my pillow. I mean, I made two of them actually. So there's my Route 66 pillow. And I even had little pom-poms. I love pom-pom fringe trim. So I had that already. So I put that on my pillow. So there's one. And here's the other one.
They're so cute. I just love those.
So I came home and I didn't just put my fabric away somewhere and think, oh, I'll do that someday. I came home and did it. Even though I had a million other things I needed to do, I made pillows.
I loved that. I thought that was awesome. So good job. Good job. Thank you for being willing to go and go do that. Okay, mamas, anybody else try something this week? Do something. I know Lindsay Watkins talked to us last week about the nature journals that she did with her family, which was brand new, right? New experience. Tried something different.
Yeah, we did. And it's been funny. Even my husband noticed because our daughter, she's an outdoorsy kid anyway, but she came in and she was like, Mom, I found this other caterpillar, because we found one. We killed it, by the way.
The woolly mammoth.
We didn't mean to. The woolly bear. We didn't mean to.
Yeah.
But since we found that one, we were driving and she's like noticing other things. Well, okay, I don't know if anyone, it must be a homeschool mom thing. It might not be. We were. We had this armadillo who got bumped, and he was dead on the side of the road, but he wasn't obliterated. So we pulled over and we stopped and we opened the doors to the van and we were looking at it. And I mean, when else would you see that thing that close? And it wasn't grotesque or anything like that. So, and they were like, look at this and look at that. We didn't touch him, but when else would you do that? I would have never pulled over. Looked at this poor little thing. But my husband noticed, he's like, even Anna's like noticing little things that she would have never been in there, like, hey Mom, can we look this up on Google to see what this is? Mom, can we look up to see what this is? And it's been so funny just to see how they've changed. And then he noticed, he goes, she's been smiling a ton more, because she was a 9-year-old, you know, with a 13-year-old attitude, but now she's just so much happier. It's been funny.
I love that. And that's a huge change with just one, you know, a few weeks of experiences and this one big outing, you know. So I this is why I talk about the dividends. I mean, it's just incredible, the payoff for us actually slowing down our lives, simplifying our lives, and doing things that we actually enjoy, you know. But that hard part is getting past that mental, you know, that, yeah, but if I stay here, I could finish the dishes and I could start on the laundry, you know, and we know those things need to be done. We feel this tug because we want to be responsible and we don't want to be up late and whatever else, but we make excuses for not getting started with this whole lovely thing of starting our own learning process and letting our kids do theirs. Lindsay, earlier you looked like you were maybe going to say something, Lindsay Bunting.
Yeah, I just had a couple of things. I didn't do it intentionally, but this week I usually try to read my scriptures before the kids wake up or after the kids go to bed, just because it's easier for me to focus. I don't know, but this week I didn't. I never have time. Like I'm too tired before or after. So I just did it after breakfast and I got my scriptures out and started marking and doing my thing. And Ruby, like within like a minute, my little 5-year-old, she had her scriptures out and was like coloring on her scriptures. And I thought, that's totally fine. You can color all over your scriptures and just let her color in them as I like colored in mine. But the other thing too, I was going to say that Lindsay was talking about, and it reminded me of when I first started homeschooling, was I would watch you with your kids and we'd go to the beach and you would kind of explain things more. And because she was talking about, is it a homeschool thing or just a, but you would talk a certain way. It was like a homeschool way of talking to your kids. And after a little while, I started picking up on that and I would do that with my kids. I remember at one point you said to me, like, you're talking like a homeschool mom now, like you're explaining little things about dead armadillos on the side of the road, or, like you just start to notice and talk about it and like look at things closer. It's just kind of it is a fun way. You just start getting used to talking a different way.
I think that's really funny. I forgot about that, but I remember that. I remember you and I talking about that. But it's kind of like you're kind of narrating. I mean, very loosely, a very loose narrative, about what's going on, but you just talk about that. And I think that's funny. I do that all the time now. It's just how I do things. Any situation I'm in, if I'm talking about something, then I'll always add in, you're fine, Michael. I will add in kind of the definition of whatever, the word is that I was talking about, or I'll give an example of it or something. It's just this, I don't know, you're just teaching, you're sharing, I really think sharing more. I mean, I love the word teaching and I don't see anything wrong with that. I love that. But it's just sharing the things that you have learned about it with whoever else is there with you. And I just think that's a wonderful way to approach our experience here with our children. Are you going somewhere?
I love the feeling that I'm actually now in good company. People who are speaking my language, or I'm speaking yours, because I took my kids to a discovery center. It's just like a little science center last weekend. And there was only like 12 kids in this whole building. And they made an announcement that they were going to do a science experiment downstairs. And my 9-year-old's like, let's go. And she was excited. And we were the only ones that showed up to this little, cart that they pulled out. And we were learning how to melt styrofoam cups in pans of acetone. And I said, do you know what this is? And my daughter rolls her eyes. She goes, my mom's going to tell you this is school. And so she tells the scientist girl there, she's like, she always says things are school. They're always school. And I'm like, maybe I should stop using the word school and just say learning. But it was funny because she's like, she's going to say this is school. It's been funny, but I'm learning the language, so that's fine.
Right. No, and we do that as moms. We start noticing all of the opportunities for learning all around us. But that's one thing I did kind of realize, oh, wait, I wonder if my kids don't want to know that it's school, because they're just enjoying it. And so I stopped labeling it as school or learning, and it was just the experiences we were having. But it's funny because we do that. We notice, we become aware. Oh, they're learning. Oh, here's another learning opportunity. Oh, here's another. Like all day long, we're doing school. And I think the reason we do that is because if we our normal homeschool moms, we have multiple people in our lives who are not on board with the homeschool idea, and they're wanting to know what we're doing and how we're doing school and how our kids are doing. And so we're looking for all those things that we can label as, educational.
Can I share something?
Yes, please, Sherry.
When we first, my kids had been in a private school, like Christian school, originally when they were little, where I worked. And I remember when I first brought my daughter home for medical reasons, and then my son came home a few months later. And I remember we were playing a game. I don't even remember what game. They probably would. And we were sitting there, and my son turns to me, he goes, Mom, why don't we ever do school anymore? And I'm like, what do you mean? And he goes, well, all we do is we play games and we go out to the park and, and doing all of this. And we, play with our friends and that kind of thing. So then we got to talking about what we do. And I remember we were playing a math game, but I don't remember which one. And I remember, well, you're doing math right now. He was like, no, we're not. We're just playing a game. And I love that, within a week, every time we were doing something, they would tell me exactly what subject we were doing. It was so much fun, so enlightening for them to see it the other way around, that they really were learning all the time and you didn't have to be in a classroom anymore to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Thank you for that. And that's fun to see it from that other side.
I was going to say, when my kids were littler, the grandparents would ask, well, what'd you do for school today? And they would always say, well, we don't do school. We never do. We didn't do school today. We never do school. And it was always, they would tell people, we just don't do school. So I had to start explaining to them, we're always learning. Like, you were learning when we were making breakfast this morning, and you were learning when we read a book. And I had to start explaining to them that we're just always learning. We don't do school because we just live at home as a family. Like, we don't do school. We're always learning. So now they will think of something. Sometimes when the grandparents will ask, well, what'd you do for school? I don't know. We did, they'll think of something, or they're still a little confused how we don't do school.
Right.
But we don't do school, but we don't.
Right. But we learn all the time. I know, I remember being in that proving stage, where we had people asking us on a regular basis. And so I would get done with be near the end of the day and kind of say, okay, so let's see. I would feel like I had to feed them. Okay, we learned about, what something. So if somebody came and asked them, they'd be able to spit back something that they learned about that day. But after a while, you stop having so many people question you because they love what they're seeing, and then you don't have to prove that anymore. But I remember that whole process. That's so funny. Okay, any other thoughts about this? I mean, we're evolving. We're talking about all kinds of things, but what did I put down here? I take notes while you guys are talking. And I don't remember if I've got everything down here. Oh, I think I did. I love that we're trying new things. Oh, Morgan, you're on. It's good to see your face. Welcome. If anybody has things that they want to share that are even completely off topic, do you know that you can jump in anytime? I'm open to that. I'm open to the discussion involving anything that's currently on your mind, because we're all here together. You have this opportunity. I will talk in the meantime. I will share the things that I'm learning, the things I feel like I'm supposed to bring up. But if you have something to share, just jump in there or make a note in the chat, and I'll know that you want to do that, whatever, if you're not quite comfortable jumping in, but just know that you can do that. I wanted to share with you, if you didn't see my Instagram post, or I think that's the only place I put it. I can't remember if I put it in the email or not, but I went out in nature this week. I decided I'm talking about nature study, and we're talking about this a whole bunch this month. And I haven't been, I've been out in my yard a bunch, but I haven't been out, I haven't gone somewhere. And so I went on a drive about 40 minutes away and went to this place called Wind Wolves Preserve, and went for a nature hike out there. And I've never been out there, which is kind of a shame on me because it's close, it's not that far away. And hold on, I was going to look up, well, I can't remember. I'm not going to look it up because I'll lose this note that I want to share with you. But on the sign, as you are approaching, going in through the gates to this place, and it's in the valley where we live. So it's not, it wasn't a place with lots of trees and things like that. It's the grasses. It's the golden hills and the grasses. And I learned that wind wolves is the name given to the wild grasses out there, because as the wind is moving through the grasses, it looks like a wild animal running through the grass. I thought that was cool. I didn't know that. I've known that place existed for years and years, but I never knew that the name was, meant something. I wondered a little bit, not enough, obviously, because I never ever looked it up. But I thought that was pretty cool. And I will include some pictures in the newsletter too, but it was fun. It was so great just to get out there with a friend, a good friend, And we walked and we talked and we looked and commented on the things that were around us, and we picked the perfect time. We saw in the distance, like, where's my camera? This big, a person across the way and on a trail on the other side of one of the hills. We saw two cyclists way down far away from us. We saw a coyote across the way. And then on our way back, we saw a guy and his little dog. And in the parking lot, when we got back, we saw a woman. That was it the whole time. So it was really cool to be out there in nature, just us and this coyote. We kind of went, just watching, where is he? But it was kind of magical. And we went up to this little peak and we sat there on a bench and had snacks and drank water and just talked about life and meaningful things. And we walked down by where the river was, and there was some benches and tables down there. And we looked at the different trees and listened to the water, which is just so calming and peaceful. And along the way, I saw grape leaves, and I thought, oh, this is really cool. These are wild grapes. I have grapes that grow in my yard, and down the way, there's some wild ones that just kind of I don't know how they got started. I don't know how that happens, but anyway, we have wild ones too. So I noticed the wild grape leaves, and I was kind of following, and they went down in this ravine, but they were coming up and growing up the trees. And then I saw that there were grapes actually growing on them. And so there were still some clusters of grapes on these grape leaves. And I had my phone, but in a in a quick motion earlier, I had swiped my brightness all the way down. And I was outside, so then I couldn't see to swipe it back. So I didn't have my phone to take pictures, or I would have a picture for you of this beautiful wild grapevine and these grapes that were growing on it. Anyway, we had to kind of hold on to each other and reach out to be able to grab some of these grapes. And we just got a few of them, but they were amazing. There were these little teeny tiny round, like completely round, small, with one single seed in the middle of them, dark purple grape. And they tasted like juice. And Kristen, I don't know what your grape juice grapes are like. I don't know if they're small like that, but they tasted like your grape juice. I mean, they were just perfect, amazing. And so I'm going back next week, and I'm going to go there first to see if anybody else has gone and cleaned out the bush, because I want more of those grapes. But how fun to have this, I was foraging. I'm a forager now. I've been following these Instagram blogs of these homeschool families who are learning about foraging too. And they take their kids out and they go foraging in the forest. I think that's cool. So I'm a forager now. I can add that to my list. But it was a really positive experience. I loved doing that. And I felt like I was bringing all of you with me, because we'd all talked about it. We'd all talked about getting out in nature and doing this. And so it was fun. And I thank you for the encouragement, because being part of this group encourages me to go and do these things. So I don't know if any of you had more experiences out in nature. That's another thing you can share and talk about. Since we are talking about our favorites, I was going to share a couple of things with you about that too. Oh, Kristen, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I just, interestingly, in our on Sunday we had a little Zoom Relief Society meeting, and our Relief Society president, I don't even remember what we were talking about, honestly. Noticing the greatness of God, and talking about at this time when things are kind of crazy, and how are we doing that? And she just mentioned how she has started, sometimes she'll just go sit in her grass and just feel the grass under her fingers, and how much peace she feels. And she said, I never would have done that before. I never did that. She said, I would go out with my kids and play out in this and go do things with my kids, but just by myself, to go sit on my lawn and feel the grass and go, okay, Heavenly Father's in charge. And I thought that was such a great testament to, I mean, and yes, it's nice to do things and get away from our own yards, and we should do that and go explore and do things. But at the same time, when we're struggling on our own, go sit outside. Yeah. And, you don't need to necessarily take a big trip somewhere, but I just thought that was really great. I really liked that.
I love that. I'm glad you shared that. Ida gave you a thumbs up. she's probably nursing the baby or something. Otherwise, she'd be on here with us. But yes, you know, I don't know if any of you have seen the science series called, hold on, One Square, is it One Square Yard? 1 square foot? Anybody know that? And it's a backyard science thing. And they have, you know, pond, river, I'm not going to be able to think of any of the titles right now, you know, but like seashore, whatever, all these different environments. But it's the idea of taking just 1 square foot, I think it is 1 square foot. So that's 12 inches by 12 inches, right? That space. And going out in nature, and that's often just your backyard. Go out in your backyard and take one little small area of space and just look at it. Just observe. Just pay attention. Notice what's there. You'll notice things you have never seen before, that you've never paid attention to. And it makes a difference. It changes you. But it also is very calming. There's something about being out in nature. And I don't know if I've shared this thought with you before, but my husband and I were talking about how calming and peaceful being out in nature is, and wondering about that. He goes in backpacks, like in the high Sierras and stuff like that. And and he's trying to talk me into doing that. So I'm weighing that. I'd have to actually like be more physical, and I don't know, but it does sound beautiful and the pictures are very nice. But paying attention to being out in nature and how it makes you feel. We were talking about how, you know, we know that everything in nature, that nature obeys God, you know, that the wind and the waves obey him, right? Even the dust of the earth or whatever. So maybe our spirits feel comfortable in this environment where there is order. You know, it's something that we feel more comfortable in, maybe because of that. I just thought that was a really interesting thought. But in any case, it's lovely to be out there and pay attention to what you're seeing, what you can notice in just a small space. My son was out working on a project that he's building for Christmas, and comes in, mom, come here. And it was just because there was a woodpecker on one of the palm trees. And it's just fun to watch them when they're out there. And it has been there for quite a while. And he had just stopped his work and had just been out there watching. And we talked about how we ought to, this next week, take a couple of chairs and just go sit and pick any place in the yard, different places in the yard, and just sit for maybe half an hour and notice what happens. You know, and we talked about what would happen if you just took a day. Obviously, this is an wait, hold on. Why can't I think of the right word to put in this sentence? I really can't. I still can't. Somebody help me. And I can't. Imagined, I'll say scenario. But
Hypothetical.
yeah, that works. Hypothetical situation, right? Where you just, okay, what would this be like if I had a whole day from sunrise to sunset to watch what happened in this space, my space, you know, my backyard? I bet you'd be amazed at the things that happen and the creatures and animals and stuff that come by. Anyway, even just, you know, on the insect level, but just notice, take a little bit of time and pay attention. Michael said, my son says he notices that when has much less screen time. I mean, he's choosing it. He's old enough, but when he has days where he just is on his screen a bit more than he wants to be, that he notices a difference. He just doesn't pay attention to the world around him because you're used to being fed. You know, everything comes right to you. And so you go outside and you don't stop, and you have to actively pursue and go out and, you know, reach out for something. So, okay, I want to see what Lindsay Watkins said. Oh, Ida, that is cool. We love learning about all the edible and medicinal plants and herbs. And yes, she is feeding the baby. And then Lindsay Watkins, my husband, said he feels the same level of peace in his garden that he feels in the temple. Yeah. And every year his garden gets bigger. He always comes in looking so content and peaceful. I love that. There's something magical out there. When I was tending my garden, which I go like this with my garden attention, it's my attention span, I guess. But when I'm having successful times in my garden, I go out there and I feel like there's this dragonfly that comes when I'm out there. And it was when I was actively tending my garden, that dragonfly was there every morning when I was there. And he would just come and sit on one of the little poles out there. And I started talking to him. And I would just, I mean, not too strange, but he didn't talk back, so I guess we're safe. But I enjoyed that there was this creature in nature that seemed to kind of be hanging out with me. I liked it. And then I just finished rereading The Secret Garden, and I love that book. And I love that Diggin, I think, I can't remember because I was listening to it this time, so I can't remember how his name is written, but he's the boy from the big family across the moors, and that is friendly with all the animals, and they hang out with them, they come to him, things like that. I love that thought. That's kind of a magical thought. I think I might have mentioned that last week, but anyway, but that connection with nature is real. Your kids know that. They feel that. If they've lost it because they've spent too much time inside, or they're transitioning from public school to homeschool, just put them outside. As long as you don't have any neighbors who would report you, lock the door. Don't let them in. Just send them outside lovingly, encouragingly. But at the beginning, sometimes they don't quite know what to do and they're not sure. Obviously, you could just go out there and sit with them. I'm just teasing, but let them go outside and just learn to love it, learn to explore and find all that's good out there. I can't say enough about going out in nature and exploring. Okay, so going quickly to my things that I found. I was thinking about the things that I love to do. One of the things I love to do is crochet. I want to love knitting, and I have knitting needles, and every once in a while I'll pull them out and I'll start doing that, but I get it too tight and I can't even move the stitches on the needle. But crocheting, for some reason, I can do that. And so I can keep, I don't know, but anyway, so I got some different yarn and I'm making something and I don't even know what it is yet. I'm not quite certain, but look at this. Look how fun this is. Hold on. Okay. See my little, I haven't done a granny square in forever. I've just done these big blankets. Well, hold on. I can't figure out which way. Like this blanket I did forever ago. So I just do big Afghans, and I do usually like some really boring colors and then do a bright color here and there just for fun. And that's what I usually do. So now I'm doing this old fashioned granny square, but with cotton, all cotton yarn, and it's bright and it's fun because it's done this pattern. But now I don't know if I just want to keep going bigger, bigger, bigger and make one big giant square baby blanket for my first grandbaby that's coming in February, or if I want like a few squares and hook them all together. I don't know. Lindsay's bringing her blanket. Is that one you just made?
Yeah, this is my mother-in-law's Christmas present.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Huge.
Oh, that is
stitch for it. So yeah, I made my mom one for Christmas and my best friend one and my mother-in-law.
And that's such a nice thing because you can just sit and do it while you're talking to somebody, while you're hanging out with the family.
Podcasting and watching TV, whatever. It's been fun. I tried different stitches for each one of them. So
I love it.
So it's fun.
I love it. That's so awesome. And so you got enough thumbs up for Mina. When I was in Utah a month ago, I got to work with my sister and I was teaching her how to crochet. So she's been working on a blanket. So that's fun. And then I brought my, hold on, did I do it right this time? Yeah, I brought my monsters. I made these monsters for my kids. I started them when my kids were little. And then finally, like 2 years ago for Christmas, when my kids are, like 25, 23, 19, something like that, I finished them. But look how cute they are. And I just found fur that I liked. And I went through my tin of buttons and I don't know. So I made monsters. And I tried to make them with personalities, Oh, so it's my monsters. And I realized I loved making those. I had so much fun doing it. I should do it. I should do things like that because it makes me happy. I keep trying to figure out what it is, that I enjoy doing, because I want to do something creative. I think that we all yearn to create something, and it's very different for different people. There's so many categories of areas where we can be creative and we can let loose kind of what that creative part of us. But it's fun to try to find something that we love doing. Another thing that I absolutely love doing is storytelling. I love to tell stories. I just think that is so much fun, and I get really excited about that opportunity, I think. So those are a few things that I enjoy. Okay, I'm going to go to the comments to see. Lindsay added, the public school we left have reduced their outside time to 1 20-minute recess. Oh, wow. It was so hard to see how disconnected the kids had become. Yeah, that's really sad. Cassia, I'm not sure how you pronounce your name. I'm sorry. Ours as well. And 20 minutes was if they were lucky. Oh gosh, that's really hard. That's super hard. Because kids thrive on that outdoor time, as we know, as mamas. Okay. All right. Unless somebody's going to pop on and say something. Ida, were you going to say something? Oh yeah,
Yes.
you got your hand raised and everything.
I was
Ida,
trying to like, what was I gonna say now? Oh, uh, I was asking my kids what things that I loved. That was really funny. My
oh,
youngest, not my youngest, he's my second to youngest. He says, "Mom, you like to paint?" Oh, first he says, "You like." Don't mind my screaming children in the background. He says, "You like flowers?" I'm like, "Yeah, I like flowers." "And you like painting flowers?" "And I do too. I like painting flowers." I'm like, "Yes, yes, I do." Anyways, it was pretty funny. And then my daughter comes out and she's like, flowers?" I'm like, "You heard what Isaac said." Anyways, I was gonna say something else and I can't remember. So about the creation thing, right?
yeah.
One of my friends posted on Facebook something about she loves her kids are both on missions, but they both are very creative and do lots of different kinds of things with their hands. One of them makes jewelry kind of things and all kinds of stuff with wire, and the other one paints and whatnot. Oh, she makes music. That's what it is, not painting. She composes music. And I was thinking about that. I'm like, the creation is like helps us draw closer to Christ. Like we feel connected to him because he's the savior, and he created the world and all of that, and so it helps us to understand him more. And then I think too about being outside, like it says in the scriptures, all things testify of Christ, all the world around us. And so we can't help but feel that testimony when we see the beauty of Heavenly Father's creations, and it like um it speaks to our soul in a way nothing else can. And so
Mhm.
I feel like that's one of the reasons why it's so important to be outside and to be able to really observe and like get to know nature, because it helps soften our hearts in ways that other things can't.
Yeah. Oh, I really think that's true. With all of these categories that we talk about, nature being one of those, but storytelling, poetry, music, art, those things touch our hearts, and they reach us in a way that nothing else can. I have loved reading these resource library books from The Well-Educated Heart. And you mamas if you want to get them. If you don't have time to do it, don't feel bad. Listen to the podcast, listen to the Take Fives, because that's what one of the books is, all of the transcripts from the Take Fives and podcasts. So you're going to get all that information by just being on the app and following those things on the app. Okay, so I want to see what's here in the chats. I'm sure on the recording, when people watch it later, they wonder what I'm doing, but I'm looking at the chat comments to see what's here. Okay, so oh, Sherry, thank you. Yeah, I got to be storytime reader at the library for a while, and I absolutely loved that. It was so much fun. Okay, and Rachel, yes, we talked last week about if you don't know what things you love, talk to your kids, talk to your husband, talk to your best friends, your sisters, your mom, people close to you, and ask them, what do you notice that really makes me happy? What would you say are my favorites? And see what comes up. I think it would be interesting conversations. They may not get it right, but I think you'd find some things that maybe others see in you that you don't see in yourself. And so I really, that kind of just came up as a natural conclusion from our conversations last week. But I love the idea. And I didn't do it. I need to do that because I'm curious to find out. And I'd say really branch out there and ask people. Go ahead, Rachel.
My kids would probably say I like cleaning.
Well, you're not alone, because Kathy Brown said last week that's what her kids would say: cleaning and brownies, or making brownies. I'm not sure. And that's okay. That's okay. That's gonna, the things they know that their mama, is that it's important to keep things clean and that you like to do that. That's not a bad thing.
Yeah, Lori.
Yes.
So I was at the store the other day and I found this book. And you talking about storytelling reminded me of it because I started reading it. And it's called The Big Thornton and Burgess Storybook.
Oh, yes.
Do you have it? Oh my gosh, it's so
I
cool.
have Thornton Burgess books. I'm not sure if I have the big.
Okay, well, so I have his books, like, the old Mother West Wind and all those,
Yeah.
And I saw this at the Half Price Books. And I was like, ooh, I haven't seen this book before. So I pulled it out. So cool. It has all these little stories, short stories. And this I started reading it last night. It's so cute. Like, he had all the kids in the neighborhood come to his house. And they would take turns bringing a log to put on the fire. And they would have popcorn and roast marshmallows in the fire in the house. And then when they were done with that, then whoever was the kid that got to bring the log would put their log on the fire, and they would say this little thing to the log. It was like a little silly little thing they did, but it was so cute. Fire, fire, burn my log, snap and crackle, leap and glow, turn to smoke and ashes, but not too fast and not too slow. In its heart a story lies, only you can set it free. Fire, fire, burn my log while the tale is told to me. And so then they would put their log on the fire, and he would tell them a little story. And like, the stories are so cute. And like, the first one was about Peter Rabbit finding the thing that was of most value above everything else, and it was liberty. And I was like, oh, this is so great. So if you ever find this book,
So tell us the title again.
it's The Big Thornton Burgess Storybook. That's it.
Okay. Wow. All right.
It was only $7.99, and
That's awesome.
a really great one. So storytelling, I thought that was so cute that he invited the kids over in the neighborhood and told them stories.
Yes. And that's a magical thing, especially if you know the stories, and you can tell them by heart. And that's something I had some I used to do that with, but I've kind of lost because I haven't been doing it. I've lost that. But even just telling the story. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Ida.
No, it's okay. The kids knew the characters. And so he would tell different stories about all these characters in his books. And so like, they would get to the part where he would say, and the bunnies, or Peter Rabbit and his cousin they were off, and they would say, lipperty, 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 lip. All the kids would, because they knew that's what, he was going to say next. And he would kind of teach, who's telling this story, me or you?
Yeah.
Anyways, so cute. So just thought I'd share that.
Oh, I love that. And I love when our kids get to know the characters. We did Beatrix Potter and Francis books. Those were common ones for us. And it's fun when the kids get to know the characters in the stories. And who else? Oh, Uncle Wiggily stories. Those are other really good ones. And it's fun for the kids to learn the characters and know a little bit about their personalities. And they can kind of have expectations about what's going to happen in the story because they are familiar with the characters' personalities.
My son, when he went to public school, he told a Uncle Wiggily story in the talent show.
That's awesome.
So it was the only talent that was storytelling, but I was like, we've got to bring that back. So even though I wasn't excited that he was in public school, he's not anymore, but it was cool when he was there that he got to share that good story and just share that we can still tell stories. We don't have to have a book in front of us. So
I think that is awesome. You must have been so proud of him.
Yes, I was. He's always had an amazing memory. So
That's great. And stories just, they're great to remember. We can picture them so they stay with us a little bit better because we can visualize the story. I love that. And how wonderful for other children and parents to have experienced that so they could maybe prick their hearts and they could, oh yeah, I'd like that to be part of my life.
mhm.
So what a great thing. I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I have a couple things I'm going to share with you. I thought these were interesting. Okay. Well, there were so many things in the book, but I'm not even going to go there this time, and we'll just save them for another time. But there were a couple of things I printed out that I wanted to share, some of these thoughts, and then a story. And again, jump in anytime that you want to. Hold on, I'm trying to find my glasses, and they are on my head. Okay, so I'm going to start with this, even though I thought that this might be something that I would end with, but I'm going to do it right now. This is where it feels like I'm supposed to do it. So you might have heard this. This is on the Well Educated Heart app. It's right in the beginning part of the introductory courses. The mom, I can't even remember that first section, what it's called. But anyway, it's that first section there in the introductory course. And it's the video that is One Mom Heart to Another. And it's Sally Clarkson. And I found the transcript from that video and I wanted to share it because it's lovely and it's a good reminder. And you mamas need to remember these thoughts. Dear sweet friend, you are a wonderful mother. Do not discount that the moment that it comes out of my mouth. Just think on that for a minute and listen to what comes next. What you are doing matters so much to God. I know there are many times you feel overwhelmed, exhausted, lonely, unsupported in your role as a mom. Please know that all of us fail. We all make mistakes and feel inadequate. But I see you seeking to be so very intentional and faithful. You are a gardener of souls, a cultivator of life. I love that visual, so keep that. She goes on to say, others threw seeds of their children's lives into the winds of culture and foolishly expected a garden. You plant your children in the safe, rich soil of home. You water them with love. You feed them with truth. You nurture them with time. Time for hugs, for kisses, for snuggling on the couch, playing, laughing, drawing, for dreaming, creating, talking, believing. Your children look to you because you are their sunshine. You are God's gardener of your children's souls. You are tending the seeds that will grow into the next generation. I am so proud of who you are and what you are doing. Know today that you are not invisible. You matter so much to me and to God. You are a wonderful mother. May his grace and wisdom be real to you today. All my love, Sally. Isn't that sweet? Just a little letter from one mom to another, reminding us about the great work that we're doing, reminding us that we all fail, we all make mistakes. Don't focus on that. Focus on the cultivating that we're doing. I love that. I hope that there are parts of that you can just bring right into your heart and think on that. Any thoughts about that? Is that a positive for you? I hope that's a positive message for you. There was a mom on Well Educated Heart, and this isn't the one I was going to go with, but this one came up today and I felt strongly like I needed to share this. So I copied the whole entire thing, her initial post and then comments that were there. She says, I'm looking for heartwarming suggestions on starting a daily gratitude habit for myself. I'm normally a perfectionist type person, but this year has really amped up my anxiety, and I have this constant feeling of not enough. Did I play with my kids enough today? Did I buy enough groceries? Did I balance enough outside time with TV time? Have I given my husband and I enough time for us this week? It's just this constant worry and weight, and my heart is heavy. I know that the holiday time also amps things up, and I want to slow it down before things get crazy. So Any tips for slowing down and focusing on things I do have to be grateful for? I'm open to suggestions or resources. So mom is just reaching out. Please help. She knows what's coming. So multiple responses. One was a mom told her about a gratitude journal that she got on Amazon, and I'm going to put the link in our newsletter. And it just says, good days start with gratitude journal. And all it asks for is 3 things a day you're grateful for. So good days start with gratitude journal. Again, like I said, I'll put it in the email if that just speaks to you and you want that. Another says, I really loved the book 1000 Gifts by Ann Voskamp. Never heard of it, but I will look into that. The action point is just to keep a gratitude journal, but her chronicle of the time she spends doing this is so inspiring. It's one of the few books I remember years after I read it. Again, that title was 1000 Gifts by Ann Voskamp. As we're in this mode of sharing, mothers sharing resources, this just seemed important to me to share these with you. Another mom says, I do a gratitude section of my scripture journal. I write 5 things each day, trying to not make them repeats for at least a week. Another one said, I loved Emily Bell Freeman's idea. She's the one that does Inklings, if any of you are doing that. I loved Emily Bell Freeman's idea that she used with her seminary students and started doing this with my own kids as part of our morning homeschool devotionals. She plays the song Prayer of Thanksgiving, and this mom even links their favorite version of it. So I'll share that with you later as well. She plays that song, Prayer of Thanksgiving, and write how you see the hand of the Lord in your life or what you're grateful for. The last part of the first verse of the song ends with, and it says in quotes, the Lord forgets not his own. He does not forget us. How have you seen him show up in your life? This has made a big difference in starting our mornings. Sometimes I ask the kids to share what they've written, and it's neat to hear about a seminary lesson that was impactful or a kind friend, etc. My college son also started doing this, and she remarks, it only takes 5 minutes. And he told me it's now the favorite part of his day. And I liked that. I thought that was a really good idea. And you can find your own version of these things too, something that works for you. As far as slowing down and giving ourselves grace, this is another mom's comments. I highly recommend living in rhythm with Luke 2:52. I didn't look that up, but I will. This was just this morning. And I just felt like print this out and share this. I've been doing it for years, thanks to a homeschool blog post I came across years ago. She talks about a book and journal and says that invites us to rest, restore, connect, and create. Those are important words. Rest. Okay, we need time for that. We know we have the Sabbath for that, but rest, restore, connect, create. And I'll link those. And then she continues and says, I think journaling of any kind is very therapeutic. And I love combining it with a simple plan for the new day, noting the most important person or project for the day. Then she includes a list of things that she ponders at the end of her day. And I want to share this list with you. I think these are nice things to think about. She said she records the answers that come to mind for 1 or 2 of these questions, just to help me remember and celebrate this day of my life. Which, isn't that a better response than to think at the end of the day, oh, I didn't get this done. Oh, I never got around to this. Oh, I forgot about this. I'm such a failure. Isn't it so much better to look back at your day and look at the things that were good? So let me share these questions. What am I grateful for and why? So remember, just 1 or 2 things on the list. Don't be an overachiever and try to do all 10. Just pick 1 or 2. How did I see God's hand or his goodness in my life today? Who am I grateful for and why? What was my best moment and why? What did I learn today? What was my hardest moment? Why? And what did I learn from that? What is something to celebrate about today? Now, again, I'm going to give you all of these in the email. So, and if you're not on the email, just leave your email address if you want to, and I'll add you. What is something I want to do differently tomorrow? What did I love about today and why? What one person or moment made today great? I like this whole approach. And then another, okay, this is the last one. Instead of writing a to-do list at the beginning of the day, at the end of the day, write a have done list. That spoke to me. That is my favorite thing on this list. I absolutely love it. Make sure you include feeding kids. I actually fed my kids today. Boom. Feeding kids, clothing them, comforting them. There are so many small tasks that take up our day that seem unimportant, yet they are the most important thing we do. As you focus on the little things, you will feel more gratitude for them. You do so, and don't you love that? Instead of just brushing them away as, oh, those are the little things. Those are the everyday things. No, focus on them, think about them, and be grateful for them. Feel gratitude for those little things. You do so much more than you realize. You just need to train yourself to look at it from a have done, not didn't do perspective. After you do it for a week, okay, so you've done this for a week, spend just a few minutes only looking for one thing that is out of balance, not a whole giant checklist of things that you are doing wrong or should do better or something. One thing that's out of balance that you want to work on. And the next week, you can keep that one thing in mind. Benjamin Franklin had his list of how to improve, but he only worked on one thing a month. You are more amazing than you know and doing much better than you think. You just need some clarity. Now that was my favorite takeaway from this whole week. I loved that. I'd love to know how you feel about that. You may still be processing that, and I understand that, but I loved that. I think it's fabulous. And I think it's a good thing to think about as we go to this next week. You know, I loved it. Sherry, were you going to say something, my friend? I think today we've had a few bad connections on and off. We've had some people have to come in and out. So I'm sorry. That's, I don't know what end that's on, if it's mine or yours, but that's hard. Hopefully you all know that there's a recording of this that you can watch after the fact if there were parts that you missed or parts you wanted to get back to. Okay, I am working on this. It's just hard. I would love to sit down with my videos, the recordings, and watch them and then say, okay, from here to here, we talked about this, you know, and here's this link to this resource. And from this point to this point is where we talked about, you know, this new topic or principle or whatever, and share the thoughts that people shared, because I've written down some of your thoughts, you know, and they're on the video obviously. And so I could share some of those key points. I just haven't found that I have time to do that. And so while that would be lovely, it would be very helpful. Apparently right now it's not my job. You know, if any of you find yourself in a position where you think, oh, I could do that, you're more than welcome to message me and say, that's something I have time for. I could do that. Or I love doing that. Or I know how to, because for me, I also have this learning curve that I'm going to have to go through to even figure out how to do that. And if none of you do, that's okay, because we still can be here on Fridays. If we can't, we can watch them later and glean what we can from the discussions and move on. And it's not professional, and that's all right. That's not the point of it. The point of it is connecting, sharing what we're learning, hopefully getting good messages and motivation and encouragement for the weeks to come. So Does anybody have anything else they want to share before I share with you my absolutely beautiful story that I want to share with you for this, the end of this week? But I'm always open to you and your comments, your thoughts. So just looking, as long as you're all muted, I was gonna say muted, that doesn't, as long as you're all muted, then I'm going to assume that you're good. Okay. All right. Oh, Ida, you read that same message this morning on Well Educated Heart. Yeah, it was absolutely beautiful. Okay, so this is the little girl that I told you about last week or a couple weeks ago. This is a little picture book about her. Very sweet, very sweet. Only Opal. This is Opal Whiteley. If you've listened to, and I don't remember if it's podcasts or take fives, but she's one of them, the story of her life. And it's just beautiful, very touching. But so let me share a little introduction and then a page from her journal. So this is a little girl that was okay, I'm just going to share it this way. Of the days before I was taken to the lumber camps, there is little I remember. As piece by piece, the journal pieces come together, some things come back, some memories come back. There were references here and there in the journal to things I saw or heard or learned in those days before I came to the lumber camps. There were walks in the fields and woods. When on these walks, Mother would tell me to listen to what the flowers and trees and birds were saying. We listened together. And on the way, she told me poems and other lovely things, some of which she wrote in the 2 books, and also in other books which I had not with me in the lumber camps. On the walks and after we came back, she had me to print what I had seen and what I had heard. After that, she told me of different people and their wonderful work on earth. Then she would have me tell again to her what she had told me. After I came to the lumber camp, I told these things to the trees and the brooks and the flowers. There were 5 words my mother said to me over and over again as she had me to print what I had seen and what I had heard. These words were what, where, when, how, why. They had a very great influence over all my observations and the recording of those observations during all the days of my childhood. And my mother, having put such strong emphasis on these 5 words, accounts for much of the detailed descriptions that are throughout my diary. No children I knew. There were only Mother and the kind woman who taught me and looked after me and dressed me, and the young girl who fed me. And there was Father in those few days when he was home from the far lands. Those were wonderful days, his homecoming days. Then he would take me on his knee and ride me on his shoulder and tell me of the animals and birds of the far lands. And we went for many walks. And he would talk to me about the things along the way. There was one day when I went with Mother in a boat. It was a little way on the sea. It was a happy day. Then something happened and we were all in the water. Afterward, when I called for Mother, they said the sea waves had taken her and she was gone to heaven. I remember the day because I never saw my mother again. The time was not long after that day with Mother in the boat when one day the kind woman who taught me and took care of me did tell me gently that Father too had gone to heaven while he was away in the far lands. She said she was going to take me to my grandmother and grandfather, the mother and father of my father. We started, but I never got to see my dear grandmother and grandfather. Something happened on the way and I was all alone. And she ended up being put with a woman, this Mrs. Whiteley, who lived in a lumber camp. And this sweet little girl, Opal Whiteley, lived for the rest of her childhood years with this family and lived in 19 different logging camps over the course of her life, and was not a daughter really, but a little worker for the family there. But she shares, has all these entries from her journal. Her journal, she kept these 2 books that her mom had written in for years, but then someone found them and took them from her. And then she had her own journal that was just a compilation of pages, papers, envelopes, backs of packaging that a kind woman down the street would give her for her paper. So it was just this combination of these papers that she kept together and wrote on. And it said she wrote from, one corner of the page all the way to the other spot. I mean, like you could not have fit in another letter, on those pages. She so carefully used that paper. But one day her stepsister found her journal and tore it to pieces. And she gathered all the pieces and kept them. And one day when she had gone to a publisher to share with this publisher a story she had written and wanted to try to get published to get some money, he asked her about herself, and in talking to her was really interested in her and asked more and said, gosh, you remember all these things so well, you must have kept a journal. Do you have it? And she said, well, I do, but, and he said, well, could somebody send it? Because she had come from the opposite coast, from California all the way to the East Coast. And she made arrangements to have all those pieces sent to her. And then she spent months painstakingly putting this journal back together again. And then it was printed. And you can get it on Kindle, the Kindle Reader through Amazon for $1.99. And I can tell you, it would be a whole $1.99 that would be very well spent. But let me share with you one page from her journal. Okay, so the chapter 2 is called How Lars Porsena of Clusium Got Opal into Trouble, and How Michelangelo Sanzio Raphael and Sadie McGibbon Gave Her Great Comfort. So that's this little girl's title for that chapter. Today was a warm, hot day. It was warm in the morning and hot at noon. Before noon and afternoon and after that, I carried water to the hired men in the field in a jug. I got the water out of the pump to put into the jug. I had to put water in the pump before any would come out. The men were glad to have that water in the jug. While I was taking the water in the jug to the men in the field, from her sewing basket, Lars Porsena of Clusium, who's the pet crow, took the mama's thimble, and she didn't have it and she couldn't find it. She sent me to watch out for it in the house and in the yard and everywhere. I know how Lars Porsena of Clusium has a fondness for collecting things of bright colors, like unto my fondness for collecting rocks. So I ran to his hiding place in the old oak tree. There I found the mama's thimble. But she said the pet crow's having taken it was as though I had taken it, because he was my property. So I got a spanking with the hazel switches that grow near unto our back steps. Inside me, I couldn't help feeling she ought to have given me thanks for finding the thimble. Afterwards, I made little vases out of clay. I put them in the oven to bake. The mama found my vases of clay. She threw them out the window. When I went to pick them up, they were broken. I felt sad inside. I went to talk things over with my chum, Michelangelo Sanzio Raphael. He is that most tall fir tree that grows just back of the barn. I scooted up the barn door. From there, I climbed onto the lower part of the barn roof. I walked up a ways. Up there, I took a long look at the world. One gets such a good wide view of the world from a barn roof. After I looked looks in 4 straight ways and 4 corner ways. I love how she talks. I said a little prayer. I always say a little prayer before I jump off the barn. Can you imagine this? Before I jump off the barn into, hold on, I lost my place. Before I jump off the barn into the arms of Michelangelo Sanzio Raphael, because that jump is quite a long jump. And if I did not land in the arms of Michelangelo Sanzio Raphael, I might get my leg or neck broken. That would mean I'd have to keep still a long time. Now, I think that would be the most awful thing that could happen, for I do so love to be active. So I always say a little prayer and do that jump in a careful way. Today, when I did jump, I did land right proper in that fir tree. It is such a comfort to nestle up to Michelangelo Sanzio Raphael when one is in trouble. He is such a grand tree. He has an understanding soul. After I talked with him and listened unto his voice, I slipped down out of his arms. I intended to slip into the barn corral, but I slid off the wrong limb in the wrong way. I landed in the pig pen on top of Aphrodite, the mother pig. She gave a peculiar grunt. It was not like those grunts she gives when she is comfortable. I felt I ought to do something to make up to her for having come into her home out of the arms of Michelangelo Sanzio Raphael, instead of calling on her in the proper way. I decided a good way to make it up to her would be to pull down the rail fence in that place where the pig pen is weak and take her for a walk. I went to the woodshed. I got a piece of clothesline rope. While I was making a halter for the mother pig, I took my Sunday best hair ribbon, the blue ribbon the Uncle Henry gave to me. I made a bow on that halter. I put the bow just over her ears. That gave her the proper look. When the mama saw us go walking by, she took the bow from off the pig. She put that bow in the trunk. Me, she put under the bed. The story goes on and she gets in trouble again. But she goes and talks to her friends. She goes and talks to the trees and the animals and the mice out under the back steps. And one of those little mice she puts in her pocket and takes when she goes out on her adventures. She talks to the cows and the horses. She talks about the people that live down the road, and she doesn't know these people, but she knows their animals and they're quite nice. And but all of her interactions, she'll have these kind of negative experiences, hard experiences, but she looks at everything with a grateful heart, and she has this positive outlook. And all of this positivity came from this little bit of time that she had with a beautiful, wonderful, good mother who took her out into nature, who spent time with her, telling her stories and sharing poems with her, and having her pay attention to the world around her and learn how to look and listen. And because of that little bit of time that she had there doing those things, she was able to have a very positive existence in what would have been kind of a miserable life. But I think that speaks a lot to our influence as mothers. And that little bit of good that we might do in a day can have a huge, long lasting, very powerful impact on our children. And I think it's important to remember that. I would encourage you going and finding those stories and reading them, because it's just darling, her sweet little outlook on life and her way of connecting to the things around her. You know, that was her way of connecting with God. She was never taught about Father in heaven and never taught to pray, obviously, but she did in that way by her, communion with nature. And I love that. But think about the powerful influence of that mother in that little sweet little girl's life. I don't know if you have any thoughts about that you want to share. You're more than welcome to do that. Rachel, were you going to share something?
Sure. So when I first found Well-Educated Heart, it just really resonated with me because my grandma is very much just her whole life. She was just always singing when she was cooking. Her home just always felt like a place that you wanted to be. She always had a beautiful garden. But anyway, she had a mother that had MS. And so her mother was bedridden most of the time. But the little things that her mother did do was always read her poetry. She would always read and sing with her kids. And so she couldn't do a lot. She couldn't really keep a clean house. But that really that stuck with my grandma for the rest of her life. And she actually became a poet. She's not published or anything, but before she died, we did compile a book of her poems. And anyway, she has hundreds of them, and it's because of her mother that always encouraged her. And it was just that little thing. So I think no matter what obstacles we have, health problems or challenges, even if just doing little things like reading a poem or telling stories or whatever your natural love for, like if you love music or whatever it is, I think just the little things make a big difference. So
thank you for sharing that. And that is absolutely perfect, because I had talked to Lindsay about sharing this post, and some of you may have seen it. And then I thought, oh, I didn't print it out. I don't think I'm going to be able to find it while you guys, while I'm talking to you. But you brought this up, and it is the perfect lead in to this woman's post that we might have seen. It was Well-Educated Heart. And it's just, you're talking about your grandma reminded me of this again. She says, my mother passed away 3 weeks ago. So this is one of the moms on Well-Educated Heart. As I walked around my childhood home and reminisced with my siblings, I realized we were all given a heart education, and they were public schools because it was back, before. But she says there was beautiful artwork on the walls, and there was often fine music playing. We had access to hundreds of books. They were always just there waiting for us, never forced on us. She was always reading and nourishing her heart and mind, which inspired us to do the same. I mean, this is a real life story, proof that this works. She would attend lectures and learn about what was important to her, and then come home and implement what she learned. She modeled a love of learning and growth, and we couldn't help but imitate her. I don't ever remember feeling pressured to get good grades, but she did pressure us to be the kindest and safest people in our classes. Our home was always warm and inviting, but it was also more than that. It was a refuge. Our friends always wanted to be at our house, not because there was anything exciting to do there, but because of how they felt. They would often end up sitting at the kitchen table late into the night, opening up to my mom, soaking in her wisdom and love. She was very emotionally and spiritually sensitive. And as my brother put it, she helped her children develop the same spiritual sensitivity, which called them to her side just a few days before her death, a sacred experience which allowed her family to be together one last time on earth. When Marlene invites us mothers to warm our hearts first, this is why. My mother's heart was so warm, it oozed love and light, and all we had to do was bask in it. And Rachel, you're probably remembering your grandma. I can see that had an effect on you. But it's beautiful to think about that. You know, it really is that simple. If there is anything virtuous, lovely, or of good report or praiseworthy, if we seek after those things, we will be filled with light. And that light and that warmth is going to ooze out of us, and it's going to affect the people around us. And the most important people it's going to affect is our families. And so we can do that. We can just be about the process of finding those things that are good and lovely and spending time pursuing those things, enjoying those things, and it will trickle down to our children, and they will love it. They will feel the benefit and the blessings of that. So I want to encourage you to have the courage to do that, to trust in this pattern of learning and let go of the other ideas, let go of the pressures. Try it for a week and see what happens. And if you've been doing it, keep doing it. And then next week you can come and share more of your experiences and your testimony of this. I feel like it's so interesting because every week as we do this, as we're talking about things, we're really bearing testimony to the truthfulness of these principles that we're talking about. And we see how they really work in our lives. Any other comments from you, mamas? Any other thoughts about this? And thank you again, Rachel, for bringing that up and sharing that. I love that. Okay, so I think we're good. So we're going to go into another week, moms. We can do this. Put on your best face. Do the things you love. And let your children see you doing that. And it's going to be a huge, huge blessing in their lives. Even this discovery, this time of finding out what you love. If you don't know what it is, don't worry. Don't be frustrated or anything about that. The experience of you discovering is going to be a great thing for your children to see. So just good luck with that. I'm anxious to hear next week how we all fared, what we did, what our accomplishments were. Remember, if you don't already get the email and you want to, or you want to share some of your resources, then share your email here so that we can add you to the list, or message me, and we can do that. But thank you all for being here. It's been lovely. It's a good way to spend a Friday morning. Good morning or afternoon. Oh, it's morning for me. Hello, sweet girl. She probably doesn't want to be called out. I'm sorry. Oh, look at your beautiful cat. What a sweet little cat. I love that. Well, thank you, moms. Have a wonderful, wonderful week. Bye.